So first tell us about you and what you do and why you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I run my family foundation. It started as a little charity and now it's grown to be a family foundation that does local work as well as global work. I run the global work and then my coworker Natalie runs a lot of the local things, but we work hand in hand. I'm also the vice chair of an NGO that works with embassies and members of Congress, members of the Senate, and the United Nations. So we work with U.S. embassies based in on foreign soil. And we bring members of Congress there depending on what it is the topic that the embassy wants to discuss. So it could be something that's happened in the past that might still resonate to this day, or it could be an issue that has the potential to happen in the future. And we cultivate these dialogues to see what we can learn from each other and how we can kind of grow and get more of that full picture of what's going on in the world. And we do a lot of cultural programs as well, where we bring arts or music or food from different cultures to different places to learn more about, this great world that we have and how diverse we are and all the different things that we could enjoy together.
Okay. And so the goal of that is to bridge what?
Misconceptions. I like to say that you don't really know who you are until you experience everything. So it's that kind of organic, ever growing self-discovery, and to kind of also snuff out those misconceptions that I feel like we all have, we all grow up with,
Hmm.
and try to just give a little bit more insight into the human element of all of us.
Okay. And what is it about your family that makes this a pressing issue for you?
Our family is so diverse. My mom is Irish, my dad is Italian, my grandfather's from Italy.
Uh-huh.
So we do a lot actually in Italy, and we also have so many different religions in our family. We have different perspectives. We have conservatives, we have liberals. Our
Mhm.
family is so diverse, and yet we coexist so beautifully with one another. So I feel like our family, that's not to say we don't have arguments. We are a family. We still have disagreements, we still have arguments.
All right.
But we embrace the differences on of one another, and we may make jokes to one another, but we deeply love each other and we're always there for each other.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So our family foundation is to represent that, the diversity of our own family.
I got it. All right. And so how many people do you employ?
We only are a staff of 3 right now, but we have
Yeah.
so many volunteers. So we have people that step up on the regular. If we have an idea and we want to see if we can make it happen, the amount of people we all have that we can like grab our cell phone and shoot a text message like, "Hey, is this something you'd be interested in helping us out with?" is is pretty extensive. And a lot of it's just built from businesses and hobbies. Like the staff of 3, we all have different hobbies, but we're all very connected to different groups of people that all want to see positive impacts. So we're very lucky to have a lot of people more than willing to step up to help us with whatever it is we're trying to accomplish.
So I'm still a little bit vague. So tell me, give me an example of a high high or a low low or one of each in the work you've done in the last year.
Um, It's been a little tough, like you said, the change of the administration. A lot of the cultural programs have kind of taken a back seat, and the funding that we get from the government has very much been tightened. That's
Mhm.
not to say that there aren't programs that still are going on. They're just less cultural based and more education for members of Congress, or
Mhm.
they're more the education endeavors, and the countries of the embassies have kind of tightened certain countries right now. It's not to say that they don't want to have conversations with do, but they're kind of tightening who they let in and what kind of conversations they want to have. I mean, it makes sense as to why. So the purse strings of potential programs have definitely been tightened, and the verbiage has become very particular. So you need to watch how you would say you would do a program.
Mhm.
And so that's more on the global level. So that it has been impacted, but you're also seeing a lot more need locally as well in the United States, food insecurity and a lot more needs locally as well. So as much as overseas, it's kind of gotten less or quieting a little bit, the need
Mhm.
in the United States has ramped up. So
Okay.
our focus has shifted a little bit. We're still building a community center in Italy. Italy is very much like we we have no problem with you coming here and continuing to try to do, the work that you're doing. So we're still building a community center in Italy. Um, and there's just more of that focus on school supplies, food insecurity. We're focusing a lot also on new moms and the needs of the new mothers.
Right.
Um, so it's become a little bit more of a United States focus.
Well, and certainly it sounds like more of a basic needs focus
Absolutely.
as well, because with, just like the funds have been frozen or, for certain peace initiatives or aid initiatives, also for disaster recovery in the
Yeah.
United States. And we continue to have weather patterns that are unprecedented, and creating surprises, that the government funds are not readily available to solve.
You can see that they're still sorting out the future ways in which they plan to approach these issues, which makes a lot of people uneasy. It's the unknown always makes people uneasy, but I'm not going to say that they're not figuring out ways to still address issues. There's just a lot longer pause that makes people nervous. So that I feel like there's a lot more of a need for people who are in the philanthropic endeavors and charity endeavors that in the meantime to get creative in trying to continue to help
Mhm.
because the numbers are increasing drastically, very, very rapidly.
Right. So our audience is white women over 40 who want to make a difference, in our country in this lifetime. And we tend to go one of two ways. Everything is either urgent and panic driven and we have to right now, or we go back in our little privileged white bubble and try not to look and try not to notice. And somewhere between the two, there are places for this kind of practical application, that keep us engaged and in smaller communities, which are the way that we're going to survive this the best, as a people
Yeah.
together.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I understand the urgency and the need. But at the same time, us being humans that get emotional fatigue and we definitely get kind of numb. You want to prevent that numbness from happening because you constantly get overwhelmed. So I like to say never panic. It's grounding yourself and realizing now it's just the time to get creative and come together.
Yeah,
But don't burn yourself out because then you lose that empathy and that compassion, that human touch.
correct. Yeah, yeah. And sometimes that's a survival skill,
Yeah.
and sometimes that's just a comfort zone. And
Yes.
so you have to know. Yeah. So what kind of things, where do you get your volunteers? If our audience has potential to be a volunteer army, where do you get that? Or do you already have avenues that you pursue for that?
We are open. We're an open platform. A lot of our volunteers come from social media. We're active on social media. We're looking at the little groups that I think people forget about. We'll get down into the nitty gritty and be like, okay, let's try to find a small group that's doing a pantry program or
Mhm.
a small education group or an after school program. So we look for those and then we'll engage by sending a message to these, smaller groups that are a little bit more salt of the earth, that kind of grassroots programs. But we're also open. We get emails and I get I don't want to say text messages, instant messages on our social media platforms that are like, hey, this is what's going on.
Mhm.
Can you help us out? And I read through them, and then I love to just be a dot connector if it's something that we can't personally do in that moment. I'm continuing to try to build our network to find somebody that might be able to help you or give you an idea to accomplish what it is. So
Mhm.
a lot of it's social media, and a lot of it's those instant messages. And we even have a page on our website that's a page that comes directly to me. So
Mhm.
somebody will reach out and say, "Hey, yeah, we want to volunteer. How can we?" And then I'll say, "These are the things that we have coming up that we might need people for." Or, "Hey, we know this group that's about to do this. If you want to volunteer, maybe volunteer with them, not particularly us, but we can point you
Mhm.
in a direction of something that you are passionate about."
Right. And where is that? Which website?
It's the Denicola Family Foundation.org.
Okay.
And there's a contact us page, and it immediately pops into my email. But I have the smartwatch, so the second I get it, I, you know,
Yeah.
get right on and read it and try to see what it is that people are reaching out to see, and do my best to see how I can help.
Mhm. So you've been doing this how long?
Uh 8 years, about 8 years. My whole growth process started at I think when, yeah, about when I turned 30 was
Mhm.
when I kind of left marketing and started having the conversation with my family about wanting to be a superhero, change the world, make the world a better place. And I was just really lucky. My parents and me have a great ability to talk to one another, and they were like, "You know what, we've been really successful." They had always been involved in charitable
Mhm.
organizations, and they were like, "You know what? Why don't we form a little charity?" And then from
Mhm.
there, it became pretty successful, and then it became our foundation. Foundation's only been running for 3 years, so we're still considered a baby, but we've grown very quickly. And my goal in running it is to just keep us growing, but still grounded, and
Right.
all the things we're really passionate about. And just trying to be that person who puts all those puzzle pieces together for not only us, but every charitable group we come across and we partner with.
Mhm. Now, in 8 years, you've been on social media, you've done this locally, globally, and everything. How has social media changed and the way you have to approach it over that time? And when did it switch the most?
Uh, I would say COVID. I'm gonna say around COVID, because we became so dependent on it for our human interaction. We kind of lost filters, and
Ah.
uh, things got very aggressive. People got very opinionated,
Mhm.
and it became like a need to connect with one another, but also a need to be a venting place and to criticize everything that was going on. And
Mhm.
I think it was due to the lack of control of our environment.
Right.
So people just started kind of lashing out. So the drastic change was definitely during COVID, and you get a lot more um, aggressive negativity
Mm-hmm.
in terms of anything you choose to do, because then it becomes, well, why aren't you doing this then? Or why aren't you focused here?
Right.
I don't engage back, to be honest, because like I said, I view it as just a place people need to vent or say whatever it is that they're saying. I don't view social media as reality,
Uh-huh.
because when you are in the thick of it, in the thick of philanthropy, in the thick of charity work,
Mhm.
no matter how diverse the people you surround yourself with, the needs are the same.
Yeah.
And for the most part, we are respectful of one another, even if we don't agree where funds should go, even if we don't agree on the way to approach a problem or a situation. When your goal is to really make things better,
Mhm.
that aggressiveness in the real world doesn't exist.
Right.
So, a lot of us just tend to delete the messages and the negative, and you just look for the positive and you focus on the positive and what your mission is. and realize that out in the real world, that is not social media,
Yes.
that the aggressiveness isn't
Mhm.
um, really out there. I don't really meet people in the streets that are like, well, why aren't you? No, I don't really see that. I see a thank you or how else can we get involved? And it's not nobody's asking the questions, who did you vote for? Or where do you stand on this topic or that topic? We don't do that. We see the need. We solve the need.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. That haters is one of the things that people are afraid of getting, and I certainly was getting into social media. And I remember when I got my first one, it was both a badge of honor and a oh hell, what do I do now moment. And that's when I started engaging technology and AI to help me buffer myself from that, just like how am I, what's an appropriate response to this? Should I even respond? How do I navigate that? And yes, I agree that it's not real life, but it is certainly less civil. And I remember halfway through your 8 years when I felt like, which would have been just before COVID, I felt like Facebook became a street fight. And it was no longer civil and it was no longer fun. And after this election cycle, I got off of all meta things and it just like I became very selective about which social media to engage because I just don't have time for bots. And now there are bots
Yeah.
and they will overwhelm your feed given any opportunity. And so I've just had to do it a little bit differently. And I stepped back into the real world of consulting and coaching and getting back out there as part of my strategy for self-care as
I
well.
also just view it as for me, I was very emotional and very aggressive back. I definitely reacted. I'm
Mhm.
not even gonna say respond. I reacted to all of it and I engaged in it. And over time, I was able to learn that that's my journey. These are my triggers, and it became a self-control tool for me rather than it being I almost was like, say something to me that normally would trigger because to me it's a test. It's a test of self. If I can have these things said to me and have people get very aggressive and come at me and touch nerves that are personal to me,
Yes.
but not react,
Mhm.
to me that shows the ultimate growth and self-control in me and
Yeah.
my control of my world and the way that I assign value to everything and all the people that engage with me. I ultimately have the say in how I'm going to feel about the things that you're saying to me. And I can choose to say, there is no value in what you say to me. So I'm not going to react. I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to engage.
Mhm.
Ultimately, I have the last say. So
Yeah.
that's kind of how I viewed it, more of a therapy for
Uh-huh.
me and an odd test. But I started out very much, yeah, soapbox and aggressive and yelling back and do you know how ignorant and uneducated? Yeah, I did that, and then it's like screaming into a void where nothing changes and you're just kind of getting caught up in something that's not. Why exert your energy in something that's not real? It's not real.
It was Brene Brown who talks about, and I can't remember the name of the book, but she talks about, being in the ring. If you're on the front lines of any change, you're in the ring, and the people from the cheap seats like to shout out. But at the end of the day, she learned if you're not in the ring too, your voice doesn't matter. Okay, to me.
Yeah,
Unless you're getting your ass kicked on a daily basis, then we don't really have much in common. And you
it,
can have your
yeah,
opinion. Yeah.
that's that's kind of how I think about it. It's like, well, I spend my days and my mind and my energy trying to have a positive impact and to be a person that people want to be around and
Mhm.
to engage with and ask questions with and feel comfortable with. What are you doing? See, I know what I'm doing. What are you doing?
Mhm.
That's you and that's your journey. I'm very happy with what I'm doing and how I live my life, and I'm confident in it. So go on. Go walk down, walk out the door. I'm fine with what I'm doing.
And you have the only way that you learn that is by doing. You know,
Yes.
you can hear somebody talk about how you can ignore haters, but until you've had to ignore them, you don't know what that is. Yeah. I'm curious about your family and all the diversity in your family and the way that the values that your family holds that make it, because there are families splintered and shattered over diverse political opinions and diverse values and now and positional statements. What is it about your family that causes them to lean in instead of pull away from one another over differences?
I think because we've all been taught at the end of the day, your family is your family, and
Mhm,
policies and politicians come and go.
mhm,
And the things that are happening here and now, they're going to come and go.
mhm,
And we've all been there together. We've all grown up together, and we aren't going to let something like that ruin our connection to one another. I
mhm,
mean, there are members of our family that have stepped back, and I wouldn't say they're like gone. Nobody's cut anybody off, but there are members of our family that have taken a giant step back for
mhm,
one reason or another. But
mhm,
the ones who stay very close and very intact, we have that understanding of at the end of the day, we are family. We will be there for one another regardless of any of this outside noise. We're
mhm,
there to support one another, and we respect the other person's perspective. We respect that we may have grown up similar, but also drastically different.
yeah,
Our experiences are still drastically different, and we decide rather than engaging in arguments that don't really have an end game, or it doesn't have that growth, it doesn't have us coming together or unifying, it's not something we really want to engage in. So every now and then somebody will say something that's political,
mhm,
and we're a
mhm,
very split family.
mhm, mhm,
Half of us won't say anything. And I
mhm,
think that silence speaks for our
mhm,
family, is if we don't get, that's obviously something we don't want to talk about. We're
mhm,
we're very good about that, or we'll change the topic, and at least the opposition or the other side like picks up what you're putting down. They're like, oh, okay. Like this
yeah.
isn't something that wants to be. So let's talk about um meatball parm. Or it's like that you're not going to have an argument about, or let's talk about the next family function or what we're going to be doing together, and it's going to be unifying us.
Uh-huh.
So that's, we focus on the unifying aspects.
Mhm. So as you take that, I see your global pictures behind you. As you take that philosophy into the work that you do in the world, how does that compare? Has your footprint shrunk in this last few months or year, or is it continuing to expand? Are you able to unify, or how is it?
It expands with the people that I've had personal contact with. So
Okay.
the people that I've already had great experience, great personal connection with, continue to keep you in the loop. And as their connections grow, they keep you there. And it's the same thing here.
Mhm.
But in terms of the gathering of new, yes, that's, the opportunities have shrunk,
Okay.
but that's the kind of the beauty of what we do, is we are so resilient.
Yes.
Okay, this is the current situation. Now, how do we work with what is currently given to us? It's
Mhm.
not the I
Mhm.
give up. I'm
Yeah.
not, we're never going to give up. It's not a matter of that. It's like, okay, this is the current climate. How can we maximize the positive outreach that we have with what we have? And sometimes that's going to past relationships. Hey, what are you up to? What are you doing in Rwanda? What are you doing in Malawi? What are you doing in Poland? What is going
Mhm.
on?
Mhm.
And how can I help? How can
Mhm.
we still be a part of it? Um, but the new connections have lessened, and we will just patiently await for the opportunity and just be ready for the continuation of the new. Because it will come.
Mhm.
It always, right? There's always spring after winter. It will
Yeah.
be.
And so when we talk about self-care and how to keep from becoming overwhelmed or disengaged, what kind of practices do you actually recommend?
Um, I think it's perfectly fine to have those little breakdowns and those crying sessions. I do on a regular basis, and
Uh-huh.
where you just let it out,
Yeah.
and that feels great and wonderful, and you may feel kind of crappy right after you let it all out, but that's your moment. That's your moment to shine because it's like, okay, now get up and do something constructive and productive. And for me, it's get on a treadmill and just walk, just walk, just walk until you can't feel anymore and get those endorphins going, get your blood moving. And I love to cook. So for me, it's cooking and baking because my brain turns off. It has to focus on whatever I'm cooking or baking, and you put your love into it, your passion into it, and you allow yourself to rest that part of your mind,
Mhm.
that reset of, okay, I need to turn it off for a
Yeah.
little. And that involves turning off the news, turning off the social media,
Mhm.
turning off all of those things that can be um, confrontational, and knowing who your people are, who I can contact to say, I need to vent or I need to forget. And those
Ah,
are the people that, if venters are one, the forgetters are the people that I just go to, and we just laugh and we don't talk about anything serious. Um, and it's just knowing myself, and that when I'm getting you have to learn who you are in those moments of, hey, I know I'm creeping towards it.
right.
Um, I have a good amount of friends that I actually sent that text message to. I think a few weeks ago, I was like, ooh, I can feel it. And they're wonderful. They're like, okay, let's get it in the books. Let's get ready for a hangout session, or the cherry blossoms. Morgan, the cherry blossoms are coming in. Let's go see the cherry blossoms. And to be able to take yourself out of that and have that balance of finding something beautiful. What do you love to see and smell and touch, and reprogramming yourself to see something really great, because it's very easy to see all the bad. So it's that forced mental activity of disconnect and find the good and give yourself
Mhm.
that rest,
Mhm.
but don't
And for
give
me,
up.
it sounds like being present. I sometimes I just have to look outside and say, it's a shit show out there. It is. But right here, right now, the sky is still blue, leaves are still turning, it's coming spring, I'm hearing birds. It's like it's almost a trauma response of
Yeah.
get grounded. How many red flowers do I see?
Yes. Those very simple little, that's why I'm always like,
Yeah.
smell like fresh cut
Uh-huh.
flowers. I mean, science has proven that having fresh cut flowers in your house will actually stimulate a good mood. Knowing those things that put you in a good mood, and it's not, again, that you're not aware. It's not an ignorance thing. It's a self-preservation thing. And to take those moments of, okay, you know what? I really want to taste a piece of chocolate. I want to feel good and just eat a piece of chocolate. I'm going to eat that piece of chocolate. I'm going to pet my dog. I'm going to touch grass and
Mhm.
say, okay, these are the things that I am fighting for. These are
Yeah.
the things that are worth going through the dark and the hard, because life is hard.
Mhm.
So it's how
Mhm.
you get
Right.
back up and back out there when you're ready.
Well, and it is so important not to burn out. After the election, a lot of people took a break, a sorrow, a grieving period, whatever it was on whichever side. But coming back to life is different. And I do think that our response to all of this was affected by what we experienced with COVID. I think long COVID is more than just what happened in your body. I think we were just starting to figure out what it did to our brains, that isolation and all of that. And now this hits, and it's like a 1-2 punch to the psyche of uncertainty and daily not knowing what next, what now, and why. That that can you play with me for a minute and explore any connections between how did COVID set us up for this, but how did COVID, what did we learn from COVID that gives us an inner strength that we didn't know we were going to need for this? Because I see some of that too.
Yeah. I think COVID taught a lot of people, even though we forgot how to human,
Yes.
that that we need each other. We need people because the more we lose that ability to connect with one another, the more we lose how to converse, how to be, how to interact. I want to say appropriately, but I'm going to use that very broadly. Um,
Yeah.
it's the understanding of one another. COVID really taught us that I think we need that,
Yeah.
but we also have no idea what's ever gonna come next. And I
Yeah.
think that we as a species, we like to know and we like to oversimplify because
Yeah.
the knowing and the simplification, that's a survival thing, you know? And I think that that caused a lot of people a lot of anxiety. And because of that anxiety, some people continued to isolate and
Yeah.
kind of be disconnected. Um, and others like ran to people and wanting to be with people, engaging with people. But we spent so much time like with the algorithms that we only are drawn to people who think very similar to us.
Yes.
Oh, that's reality and that's how it should be. And we kind of got into this cluster of
Hmm.
mentality. I think that caused a lot of damage. And I think the people who are super nervous about coming back out, I can understand why.
Hmm.
Um, but we need to learn to do that. And we also need to learn that these like groups aren't healthy either.
Right.
And to kind of stop doing that. So I think that we're going to be dealing with the long-term mental and social effects of this
Mhm.
for a very long time. And until we can kind of
Mhm.
go back to the honesty of um, these things aren't real.
Right? It's not
uh,
real life. Yeah.
yeah, that they're not real, and that the world is such a much more complex, organic, ever evolving thing that it can be exciting rather than scary. Until we can reverse that fear, it's going to take a really long time. I think people have to learn to rehuman. I love
Well,
to say that because it's
yeah, yeah. It's humanity. And it is, and we won't know for another generation what the impact was on the children who lost 2 years of social development
oh,
and instead dove into the iPads and the Roblox and all of that, so
yeah,
it's a different animal.
you still don't see kids outside playing like they did before.
Right.
It's very
Yeah.
it's for me weird. Like I remember my parents kicking me outside because we were too loud in the house and being like, come back when the sun starts to go down. And you just went and
Yeah.
we still have
Lord.
video games and everything, but we went and played and you don't even really see that. And I think it has still it's fear based about how
Mhm.
kids interact with other kids and
Mhm.
measles and
Mhm.
all of that stuff. So yeah, I it is going to be very curious to see how the next generation is impacted by all of
Mhm.
it and the kind of the
Mhm.
continuation of
Mhm.
those mentalities.
Right. And in your family, how your family values hold or shift as another generation comes through with different experiences too.
We have a very good sense of humor. I don't have kids myself, but I'm close with my nieces. So we have the next generation and
Uh-huh.
they're involved. They make food for the homeless. They're involved in what
Okay.
we do with the foundation. They come with us when we go to Italy and know the multi-generational thing. But
Mm.
I see my 12-year-old niece
Uh-huh.
on Instagram and doing a video of her nightly routine, and you're like, "Why are you even doing that?" But we all have such a sense of humor that we can have those conversations and make those jokes, and when our family gets together, those kids are outside playing.
Yeah.
Do they make a TikTok video outside? Yeah, they make a TikTok video outside, but at least they're outside and they're playing, and, we're about to have an Easter egg hunt for Easter, and,
Uh-huh.
um so we still make them do outside play, and
Uh-huh.
they incorporate us in the TikTok videos, and, we embrace the differences, and, but again, we're honest and we have a sense of humor about it. So that's kind
Mhm.
of, but we also are very involved in teaching about the philanthropy, the charity, how we have a lot of blessings, and to continue to look out for those who need a hand, and to be kind and compassionate and empathetic, and they do a great job of it, honestly, because I'll even sometimes say something and they were like, "It's not for you to understand." And you're like, "Oh, good for you. You're right. It's not for me to understand." Or, uh, so I have also just a lot of faith though that they'll be all right.
Yeah, yeah, you're doing a good job. So does your foundation have like 2026, 20 forward thinking strategies, goals, plans, desires, things you hope to see on the books, or do you just roll with whatever is presenting in the moment?
We have a budget, so we have the budget,
Mhm.
a year in advance, and we
Oh,
have a dry erase board of ideas that our
okay.
budget can cover, and we
Oh,
try to plan a year out.
okay.
Now some of that doesn't happen, and that might have to get pushed, like, we do a humanitarian award at the Super Bowl city every year, for members of the NFL that give back and have their own foundations and charitable endeavors, to recognize them, and we're branching now, we've made a really big push to start incorporating sciences and healthcare and things like that. So we're going to branch out into global health and science. Uh, our hope is to launch it in 2026. Now, depending on the climate and how the world is ever changing and evolving,
Right.
we are very good at being able to pivot, but the ideas stay the same. So we have a certain amount of lauded idea of like focusing on global health,
Mhm.
conservation, humanitarian recognition, and then diplomacy and cultural diplomacy. That's the one that I would say shifts the most. Um,
Uh-huh. Uh,
but in terms of like conservation and global health, those needs stay the same. And then it's just a matter of, okay, this is our hope for 2026. Let's see if it will happen, but we're always kind of erasing, and then maybe, okay,
Uh-huh.
2027, and, we try to do long-term thinking, but the ability to pivot very beautiful.
I wondered. It's like somebody says, what's your 5-year plan?" I can't make a 5-year plan.
I mean, we have hopes to be, a have a lot more of an outreach on a global, platform.
Mhm,
We might have to say that that's more of a 10-year plan than a 5-year plan, and we might pivot for the next 2 years to just
mhm,
be primarily US based.
mhm,
We have the ability to do that, and, it also is listening to the communities, the people. What do people want to see? Where is the need at the most? I think that's the thing that we miss sometimes in the world of philanthropy and charity is actually listening. Yeah, we have our goals and we have our wants, but like what do the people we serve want?
mhm. Right.
What are their needs? What is
Mhm,
a need that's closest to home and the most needed, which is a very
mhm.
strange thing to say, the most needed, but you have to listen. You have to listen to the people.
Right, right. That is a good practice. That is true for any organization or any politician, is to listen to the people. And you can't go wrong if you do that. But I work in organizations and I work with culture and communications in large companies and smaller ones. And And so often there is this real disconnect between C-suite and line workers. And they like to blame the other side for the breach, but we all own a part in this, you
Mhm.
know. Everybody has a part, and just sometimes just bringing the awareness is enough to make the shift. Staying
Listen,
in the room when it gets uncomfortable. Yeah,
yes. Yeah, and having those open and honest conversations. I always say that you have to listen for a person to be honest with you and they have to trust you.
yeah.
And that means like active listening, not just being like, yeah, okay, but we're still have that. No, it's the listening and saying, do you mean this? And, really trying to get at the roots of needs and wants, and then kind of finding that middle ground. That's where your creative thinking is, and your ability to kind of find the middle. That's We spend too much time going back and forth and not finding this common ground where everybody is like, okay, it's not exactly what everybody wants, but we're all heard and seen and
Right.
understood, and let's move forward together.
Well, and for white women of a certain age, we have this idea of being nice instead of being honest. Okay. And we're so busy not wanting to be perceived as bitchy or whatever else that we don't say anything when we should be really leaning in, even if what we feel is anger, which is a difficult emotion. But if you will allow that, if you allow yourself to feel it and then to express it, even if you express it imperfectly, if you're in a situation where both people can stay in the discomfort and say, when you this, it makes, I feel this, or that causes that, at the end of that is where the magic happens. You will, if you stay in the room long enough, come out the other side into a new meadow you didn't know existed.
Oh, absolutely. And they say that there's a big difference between being in a safe space and being comfortable. There's no you can still be safe and uncomfortable. I think that all growth exists in the realm of discomfort. That is growth. You're never comfortable growing.
Yeah,
That's never. That's
right.
You're not, then you're really not growing. You
Yeah,
should feel a little uncomfortable.
yeah, yeah. And I do think that in our humanity, we are either progressing or we're regressing in some area. We really never hit homeostasis of, and now we want to. It's like, oh, I got to the top of the hill and now I want to be here forever.
Yep. Nope.
It
No,
doesn't
it
work.
it doesn't work. That's why they say whenever you achieve a goal, there's just another one. It's yeah,
Yes. Yeah.
'cause it's the next and the next and
And
the
so
next.
you want to be resilience is what we're after. And when we started this podcast, it was to reclaim joy in DEI because women who'd been working in it for 20, 25 years were burning out. And that was before DEI was an ugly word. And then we went to resilience redefined um, in last season. This next upcoming season is going to be resilience reimagined because we've gone through the storm, we've gone through the stuff, we've evolved, and now we are in the creative phase of so what? So now what?
I
You know?
love that. That's beautiful, and I think that a lot of people need that, "So now what?" Um,
Yes.
and that's empowering. That's
Mhm.
beautiful.
And that is where the creativity is. And that is where people come together, regardless of what's happened in the past, and can say, how do we go forward
Yeah.
in a meaningful and mutually collaborative way, which I
Yes.
think
I
is the
think a lot of
solution.
people want that, and the more you listen to everyone, for the most part, a lot of people are like, "How can we just come together and move forward?" I hear it constantly from so many different groups. It's the same thing. How? And then, but that involves those uncomfortable evolutionary conversations, but allowing people to feel safe in their honesty.
Mhm. And so your foundation, how do you promote conversations like that in a go forward situation? What would that look like?
It's the continuation to get different people in the room to have the common goal is really the unifier. So
Right.
like you were saying about natural disasters, they don't knock and say, "Who did you vote for in the last election?" It's not. So if your common goal is, okay, there was this horrible wildfire fire and we want to rebuild, you don't, you find everybody that has that common goal
Mhm.
and you become that person that's a unifier of,
Yeah.
okay, these are the common goals that we all have or we all want, and being that person to say, okay, let's get it done and
Mhm.
let's get it done honestly and rebuild from here. So that's what we do. Is there's not, we've had a lot of those conversations of, oh, how can you work with that group? Or how can you do, and it's like, because we have a common goal, and whatever they did over that has nothing to do with what we hope to accomplish. And by being that kind of that beacon, that light of whatever you've done, whatever you believe in your personal life, whatever you're doing is yours. And our goal is to create something better together. And you start shining the light on that and our ability to come together and create something beautiful, that is what people are going to pay attention to. And through that group mentality of creating something beautiful, all of this stuff that could have happened,
Mhm.
you're then an example of inclusion. You're then an example of these beautiful attributes and not the ugly. You're not shining a light on something that somebody might have done or something somebody might have said. You're saying, well, look at this. Look over here. Look at this great stuff we're doing. And that's what we try to do, is we try to be a unifier and shine light on good and not rip apart or,
Mhm.
bring the negative to light, because there's no need for that. We're here to build.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. I know somebody just now who is creating something around We're Here to Build in a very physical sense, affordable housing in ways that have never been seen before. It is a new and amazing idea. And I'm so fortunate to be in the beginning stages of their infancy of coming up with that idea. It's just exciting to watch them blossom and the when the attraction happens, when there is a creative spark and people begin to be drawn to it. Oh,
That shine, right? How
yeah.
is that? And that fire and that shine catches, and
Yes.
other people get excited about it
Yeah.
and draw and are drawn to,
Yeah.
and it becomes something that's so much more powerful than
Uh-huh.
the
Oh,
bad and the negative. Like that,
yeah.
that is something that everybody should strive for. And
Yeah.
I love that. I love when people shine and shine on others. It's
Mhm.
beautiful.
Mhm. And it is their authenticity. It is their authentic voice that sparks. And you never know how many lives you're going to touch by just showing up exactly who you are.
100%.
Yeah. This conversation is that. I can't see what it sparks in the universe from this. Yeah.
That's what I aim to do every day, is just engage with other individuals that are hoping to spark and educate and uplift, and just seeing what catches and being genuine with one another. I love it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Morgan, thank you for your time. You have any parting thoughts for our guests that you'd like to share?
Keep shining, and if you can't find the beauty in the world, be the beauty in the world and allow everybody to be a part of it.
And above all, be kind.
Be kind.
Thank you.